I mean, it it is. I guess now that the movie's coming out, I'm realizing like in a way, and honestly, I really do feel like it. We want this movie to honor this person, and pay homage to him, and you know, and have the people that love him enjoy it as well. But it's interesting to think that yeah, in a really unique way, this person will always be connected to me,
Yeah.
and I've never met him. I've never been in the same room as him, and like I'm connected to his story now in a really kind of permanent way.
Anthony Bourdain was always more than just a chef. He was a cultural figure. He used food to sort of define culture in a lot of ways and to really show us that food can really bring us together as a people more than anything else. And that was really the unique gift of Anthony Bourdain. And no one really has done it like him ever since his tragic death by suicide in 2018. But to understand how Anthony Bourdain became the Anthony Bourdain that we know, and in my case, love, you really got to go back to a period in Anthony Bourdain's life that we don't really know that much about. And that's the basis for the new film, Tony, starring Dominic Sessa as a young Anthony Bourdain. Now, it tells the story of Anthony, who at the time just wanted to be called Tony. He didn't get accepted to a program at Vassar, a writing program, and instead he decides to follow this girl that he has a crush on to Provincetown and figure things out from there. And as he does that, he struggles to sort of survive this summer in Provincetown, but it also is the place where his real love of food got started. And he studied under the tutelage of the cooks there. And a lot of the personality of Anthony Bourdain, the smoking, the swearing, the gruffness, you can see in these characters in this film surrounding this young Bourdain. It's almost as if, and he wrote about this in Kitchen Confidential, that during that summer, when he was surrounded by these different types of people, he kind of just picked parts of them and made them who he would go on to become. And he also would go on to marry that girl that he chased that summer to Provincetown. Their marriage lasted for a good while. It didn't last until the end of his life, because Anthony Bourdain's life was complicated. He had a lot of struggles. He struggled with drug abuse. He struggled with lots of different things. And we know that there were lots of struggles that maybe we're not even aware of right now. But to focus on those things, I think, would be a disservice to the memory of Anthony Bourdain. And what this film does so well, and what Dominic's performance does so well, is it shows Bourdain in all of the ways that we know Bourdain, both the complicated and the inspirational ways. And I'm chatting today with Dominic about what it was like for him to sort of find Anthony Bourdain. And one of the things that actually worked in his favor is that he wasn't that familiar with Anthony Bourdain before this. He didn't have this idea of this man that many of us have. And so he was able to truly lose himself in this story. And in the process, and as you watch this film, you'll see Anthony Bourdain. You just do. I mean, I forgot that it was Dominic for a while. And that's the gift of a young actor, and Dominic has been proving that for a while. I mean, ever since his debut in the film The Holdovers, Dominic has really been a really shining bright new talent, and this film really shows that Dominic's going to be around for a long while, and we're probably going to see him at a few more award ceremonies in the years to come. So sit back and grab a snack, because I will be right back with Dominic Sessa to talk about the new film, Tony. So the film's fantastic, and your performance is fantastic. And
Oh, thank you.
I went in expecting it to be great. I mean, I knew I had no surprise that you were great, but what I was surprised by was how I feel like you kind of got lost in the role. I mean, that you just physically, you seem
Mm.
so much like him. So like,
Oh,
did you get that from people when filming the film? Like, I feel like if I'm experiencing it, people must have
mm.
felt it around you while you're filming this.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think also like on a film set, it's like for better or worse, kind of unkosher to tell the actors how they're
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah.
Where a lot of times you're like, can somebody tell me if I'm doing a good job or not? You know? But no, I mean, it wasn't, it's interesting hearing some people saying that. Like, even some people have told me that they kind of hear my voice kind of sounding similar in a way.
Yeah.
But it was never something that Matt and I really talked about or thought about or wanted to really spend too much time on. It wasn't an important focus for us. I mean, we were really trying to connect with this person on an emotional level first and foremost. And I think maybe just being there and also just being exposed to so many photos of him at the time, it kind of subconsciously worked its way into what I was doing. That, or I just am physically similar in a way. I don't
Yeah,
know.
for sure, for sure. Well,
Yeah.
like, one of the things that I was thinking in watching it was, I've always thought that Anthony Bourdain was more than just a chef or a food
Right.
person. He was a fabric of our culture in a lot of ways, and he was a commentator on our culture, and food was just
Mm-hmm.
the vessel in which those commentary came.
Mm-hmm.
And in watching the film, I kept thinking like this person's persona looms so large still, even
Mm-hmm.
just, not even 10 years after his tragic death. And so was it intimidating tackling a role of somebody that is still so fresh in our minds?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it, I think maybe if I had already been a big fan of Bourdain, even if Matt had been, it would have been infinitely more challenging. You know, I went into the movie knowing who he was, but I had never, I mean, Matt was the first person to give me Kitchen Confidential and like
Mm,
tell me to read it. I've never really been exposed to anything the man has written. I guess I've saw him on YouTube probably a few
yeah.
times just growing up,
Yeah.
but um, other than that, I had no idea of who this person was, an idea of what he meant to me. And I wasn't working from a place of like trying to meet this standard of who he was in my mind. And then when I got involved in it, I really, and I knew he was very well respected and a very famous person, but I guess I didn't realize to fully to the extent at which people felt an emotional connection to this person, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and I just felt lucky that I was in a very unique way in doing this movie. This was sort of my entry point into learning about him and discovering him in a very organic way that
Mm,
I don't know, I didn't feel the pressure um that maybe a lot of people were putting on the film of, I think it's probably a good thing that I didn't feel that because it didn't really get to me. And I was just trying to do it as honestly as I understood it and to what as much as what we knew about him at the time, trying to portray that and the way he describes himself. I wasn't I wasn't feeling like I was working for like a personal idol of mine,
yeah.
which I don't know. I would have been focused on the wrong things, I think, had that been the case.
Totally. And I think that's what makes your performance almost so great is that, you know, what's interesting about I think this period of what the film shows is that it really is the origin story of a lot of what we did come on to know about Anthony
Mm,
Bourdain, but we didn't know a
yeah.
lot about the how it all started in a lot of
Mm,
ways. And by you not really being familiar with a lot of the legacy that was to come, I
mhm.
think it allowed you space to sort of play in a lot of ways and really discover something in an organic way, right?
Of course. Yeah. I mean, I think in a way, a lot of the like quintessential elements of Bourdain's character, the way we recognize him as an older man is like a lot of that stuff is in the characters around me. I feel, in Leo, in Antonio, and right, like I was just kind of leading from a place of experiencing that in a fresh way, like for the first time seeing someone who understands like what it means to be responsible and be on time, and for the first time seeing someone who's like handing me drugs and like wants to like get me laid, like those sorts of things that, right, like you said, like it was a natural kind of exposure to these uh I guess, experiments at that age, like experimenting with those things. And it made it more accessible and understandable for me. I couldn't be that guy that already had those things within him. I had to, and like I am now, and like, yeah, I mean, I'm constantly meeting people that are mentoring me or driving different influences into my life.
Mhm.
Uh, and that was just kind of the place I had to be in, and it was easy, especially with the people Matt casted. Like I look at Leo, and
Great actor. Such a good
he's
actor.
amazing. He's
Yeah.
amazing, and it's like I felt such a responsibility to these people. I felt a responsibility to not embarrass myself in front of these people genuinely because of like
Yeah.
the real respect I had for them. Um, and when you see me in the kitchen, just kind of like shocked by these people, like who are these human beings? It's a lot of that I think is real. And
Yeah.
if right, like if I had this understanding of that beforehand, I'd be looking for those things, like, well, that doesn't feel like Bourdain would react to it that way based off what I know about him.
Yeah.
But I think the way that I was thinking about it was, well, I'm an 19-year-old young guy who doesn't really know anything about the world but pretends they do. I know what that feels like. So I'm
Yeah.
just going to react in that way.
Well, and in a lot of ways too. I mean, in watching, I've been obviously your career isn't that long, so I've been following it since the beginning, and I've been a fan and respected the work you've done over the past couple of years. And it seems like, and I'm sure you've had this in the research or whatever, but it does feel like there are parallels between your life and Anthony Bourdain's in terms of, well, obviously where you're from, but also physical appearance, all of that. But
Yeah.
did you find parallels in your research, and also did you find a parallel in, like, for example, you getting your first project being the holdovers and having that
Mm.
be the success that it was? I'm sure that was like a monumental discovery for you in your life, that this
Yeah.
huge thing is opening up for you. And I feel like it's
Right.
probably similar to Anthony Bourdain in terms of what food was for him. So what
Yeah.
what parallels did you find between your life and Bourdain's?
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, even before the holdovers, like what feels more relatable to me is like the moment that I decided I wanted to invest in theater, in acting, because and I think in my life, I feel like I got really lucky that it wasn't long after making that decision that I had a really exciting opportunity. But I think it's just that feeling when I was at that point of when I was a senior in high school and I was like explaining to my mom that I want to apply to drama school and like trying to convince her of this idea that I had in my mind. It's being young and feeling like you want to take a risk on something and even understanding that there's a really good chance that this isn't going to work out and I don't know what this is going to look like in my life. I feel like that's the feeling I had as this character at the end of the movie, like kind of I yeah, it's cool when you look at it from as an audience and like, oh, this is what's going to happen in his life. But from that person's perspective, it's none of that is known yet. They don't know anything about this, and they're really making a scary, scary decision. Um, and that's kind of that was my experience. I mean, I did my first play in high school, and it was the first time that I felt like, um, I don't know, like I felt good at something and I had potential in something. For up to that point, I was obsessed with hockey and that was like everything I did. And I got to a point with that I felt, I don't really see where this goes for me.
Yeah.
I feel like I don't feel the instinct to discover more about it. And with this thing, it was like, I know nothing about this. It's so exciting. I'm seeing an entirely new side of myself. And I see a lifetime of discovery in this thing.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that's really similar for what's happening to Tony in this movie. Um, yeah, I mean, it's for me, like I said, like I had this amazing opportunity with the holdovers, like basically right after high school. And then for Bourdain, it wasn't until he was in his 40s that through the world of cooking, he became this prophet almost.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that's amazing. What's amazing is like I think we're both um, representative of like that thing where you have no control of time or like when things happen, but
Yeah.
if you commit to that risk, whether it's sooner or later, I think you reap the benefits of those choices you make.
For sure, for sure. Well, another thing that I was so surprised by at the screening, and it wasn't like the screening I was at, I felt like there were just regular, not that journalists aren't regular people, but there were regular people there. And,
Yeah, yeah,
and I'm
yeah.
so used
I
to
know
sitting
what
in
you
a
mean.
room of like
Yeah.
peers who are just sitting there taking notes and like
Yeah,
whatever.
critical people, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And I'm like the idiot in the corner, like crying. Um, but but I was around regular people. And one of the
Mm,
things that I think stood out to me in that screening was how emotional people got, even though the film is not, what I love about the film is that it isn't this hero worship. It isn't
right.
sort of reformatting Anthony Bourdain in necessarily a good or bad light. It's just a
Sure.
real, very origin story light. And
Yeah.
I was so surprised at the emotions people had in the film and the way that the crowd would react to certain moments because
Mhm.
some of those moments were sort of foreshadowing the Anthony Bourdain we came to know in the future
Right.
and the
Of
responses that he
course.
would and the way he would respond to things. Just because
Right.
he is such a large cultural figure, we know how he would respond.
Of
And
course.
I find when a film has that level of emotion attached to it,
Hmm.
the actor who is the vessel for bringing that emotion to screen,
Hmm.
sometimes is burdened with a legacy of somebody that people then get very emotional around that actor or they put that on that
Sure.
actor. Is
Right.
that have you been experiencing that with people having watched this film? But also,
Mm.
are you prepared as it opens wide that people are going to be putting a lot of emotion on you and you frankly just did a
Yeah.
job?
Yeah. No, I mean, it's interesting. I can't say that I've, thought about it too much, honestly. What I have thought about is, yeah, I mean, it, it is, I guess now that the movie's coming out, I'm realizing like in a way, and honestly, I really do feel like we want this movie to honor this person, and pay homage to him and you know and have the people that love him enjoy it as well. But it's interesting to think that yeah, in a really unique way, this person will always be connected to me,
Yeah.
and I've never met him. I've never been in the same room as him, and like I'm connected to his story now in a really kind of permanent way, right?
Yeah.
And people, yeah, people, I don't know, and I don't know if I can really feel like I can, take the responsibility of like, being a a spokesperson for who this person was or what they meant in the world. I think what I'm grateful for is I think what I've noticed about the people that are really really passionate about Bourdain is that they all have a pretty specific reason why he connects with them, whether it's like a part of their life or something, and it's all very personal and specific. And I now feel like I finally have that, like I was
Mhm.
starting at a place in this movie where I really knew nothing about him, and he had no impact on me, and this man has changed my life now. It's like it's crazy, and it's something you hear people talk so earnestly about and so passionately about, and then now to kind of feel that and understand it and experience him in a way that you know almost nobody could have experienced him, like kind of trying to live his version of his life.
Yeah.
um it's in me now, and it's definitely changed me, and I'm immensely grateful for that.
Yeah, it's this is my last question for you, but it strikes me as something that like it stands out in hearing you talk about it, but also having seen the performance. I remember I spoke with her a lot over the years, but after Judy, I spoke
Hmm.
with Renee Zellweger, and one of
Yes.
the things that I remember her telling me is that, she didn't go in knowing a lot about Judy, not
Right.
the way that she had to know. And
Hmm.
and over the process, she started to realize that she has to be a vessel for this person and the
Right.
emotions that people have over this person, but she can't
Mhm.
bring a lot of those emotions into what she's doing. She just has
Right.
to get to the person and use that as a gift, use acting as a gift to give that
Yeah.
back to the people who have those emotions. And so
Of
there's this
course.
detachment that she had to have in order to do it. And I'm hearing that in even what you're saying and having seen the film. And so uh, for your career right now
Mhm.
in this moment, like this
Yeah.
is gonna, a lot of people are gonna be talking about how this is a really big thing for you. It's I mean, some people, I read somewhere it's a star making role, which I agree. I mean, I think you
Mhm.
already were a star, but still, like
Yeah.
it's a star making role and it's a next step for you that's a very much a surprise that I think a lot
For
of people
sure.
are going to be surprised by. So do you feel like you did something, having worked on it and hearing the response, do you
Mhm.
feel like you did something different here? Did you grow as an actor in doing this role, and do you think it sets you up for what you're about to do in the future?
Yeah. I mean, it's when you, right. It definitely was something different. And it's not that I feel like I could point to anything specifically, but in the sense that it was genuinely challenging, like I don't think I'd felt a challenge like this until since I'd done the holdovers. Like I never felt like really like I was doing something hard every single day like I was in this movie. And even when I saw the movie one time a few months ago, and I did see that in myself. I was like, wow, I really have grown since then. And like
Mhm.
I can tell that I have a better handle of what I'm doing and a sense of my instincts and the choices I'm making. Um, and I guess that's kind of like what I'm trying to do, what I'm looking for next after this, is just
Mhm.
making sure that I'm putting myself in an environment that is as as difficult or more difficult than the one I was in this movie. But yeah, outside of that, it's like I think it was just a confidence change, and that's what I see in myself. And I think the biggest thing too is like I was really really close friends with everyone I worked with on this movie. Like
Yeah.
that was something. I mean, I've always been, had a positive connection with everyone I've worked with, but this one was unique in that we really did love each other like deeply in making this, and also like kind of being there every day and feeling like you're the face of a lot of these moments in the movie where it's just me and Matt, and feeling like everybody on that crew is like there and to support me and support him. Like it doesn't always feel that way. That's different, And I think when you have those experiences, uh, I don't know, it comes out in the best way. And I don't know, I don't know like how it's uh, going to change what I do in the future. Like, uh, but I definitely feel like the more opportunities I get like this, I'm seeing that I get better at it, and that gives me confidence. Like it makes me hungrier to like do projects like this where it's really challenging and ambitious, because I think what I'm learning about myself is like when I'm given that level of pressure, it's when I do my best work.
Yeah. And you did it. You did it in this. It was
It's a
fantastic. You should
miracle.
be,
Thank you.
yeah, you should be really happy with yourself. Well, it was
Thank
a
you so
pleasure
much.
chatting with you. You can ask your team. I was very vocal in making this happen, so I'm so
Oh,
glad it
great.
actually happened.
Oh, yeah, I'm happy too.
Yeah, congrats and good luck on everything else in the future.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure.
Wonderful. Take care.
You as well.
I'm gonna tell you this. I loved this movie. I love this movie. I think Anthony Bourdain is such a special figure within culture, and I think this film does a fantastic job of showing how unique of a presence and imprint Anthony Bourdain, and the young Tony had on all of us. And it, in a way, is very hopeful without it being cheesy. And I think that is actually a real testament to the memory of Anthony Bourdain, because he would hate cheesy. Probably like cheese though. Um, Thanks so much for checking out today's episode of the podcast. I really do appreciate it. Leave a little rating and review wherever you're listening or watching this. I'm H. Alan Scott on everything. In the meantime, go watch something fun today and have a good one.